All of a sudden, my wife started saying there were bugs in the house. You got to pivot with this disease. Knowledge is powerful. You can't know enough to help him through this. So.
Bob, welcome. Thank you for being here and for willing to share your story with this amazing Careblazer community. I'm so excited for everybody watching to be able to hear about your story and get to know you better. Why don't you start out by letting everybody know who you cared for?
Thank you, Dr. Natali. I was caring for my wife, Rayanne Soto.
And do you know what kind of dementia she had?
She had Alzheimer's.
Okay. And about how long did you care for her?
Probably 4.5 years, but most of it was the last 2 years. So when I say that, she was diagnosed about 4.5 years ago, September of 21. And so she didn't obviously at that time require as much care, but then I had to retire and sell my insurance agency to care for her full time when she was no longer able to do many of the 5 daily essential functions.
This is the time that we're talking together is coming at a pretty special time because your wife recently passed away.
She did, November 10th.
Yeah. And if you can look back, I don't know, over the past year, knowing everything you know now, you've completed the full caregiving journey. What would you tell your past self? If there was one thing that you could go back and tell yourself at the start of your caregiving journey, what would it be?
It would be prepared. Learn as much as you can. It's going to require a lot of patience.
Were you always a patient guy for most of your life, or did caregiving tap into a level of patience you never really knew you had?
For the most part, I was. In my previous occupations, one being a regional human resource manager for Albertsons and then director of loss prevention for Albertsons before I started my own insurance agency. Being a regional human resource manager and dealing with people, you had to have some patience. And I dealt with a lot of unions and a lot of bad things, but a lot of good things. So that required a lot of patience, but caregiving requires more.
Can you talk a little bit about what were some of the biggest challenges for you in caregiving?
So once Ray got to the point where she couldn't feed herself, where she couldn't bathe herself, when she couldn't take care of herself, I actually went to Sephora and learned how to put makeup on. I had the gal that cut her hair teach me how to blow dry her hair. So it was then.
The hands-on physical caregiving.
Yeah, when I had to physically walk her to the toilet, clean her, all that.
How about now, since caregiving has ended? What's that transition like? I mean, it's so fresh for you right now.
For me, it hasn't ended because I support a facility group. I facilitate a support group here in town. There's about 20 people that are part of this group. And so I'm still caregiving for them. I want them to hear what they need to prepare for, because I learned early on when I read Tattoo on My Brain by Dr. Gibbs that knowledge is powerful. And the more knowledge you have going into this, and do yourself a favor and print off the 7 stages of Alzheimer's and know with your neurologists where you think they're at, and don't just prepare for that, but start looking to the future, because the future's going to come. There's no cure for this. Nothing's going to stop it. And there's so many people like in my group that would say, yeah, well, I hope that they get better. And I have to stop them and say, I'm really sorry that your neurologist or somebody has never told you they're not going to get better. And it's, you just don't know how long the ride is going to be.
Can you think of anything in the beginning that was super helpful for you to hear? Like, for instance, you mentioned they're not going to get better. That's hard to hear, but for you, it sounds like that was a helpful thing to understand. Is there anything else that stands out that you're like, this was really important for me to know, or I wish I knew this sooner?
What was important for me to know was that go through your bucket list that you wanted to do with her and do it while you can, because too many people wait and think they have time, but you may or may not. I guess the thing to prepare for the most is that, when they become 100% sedentary, whether it be sitting or in a bed, it requires all your time. Oh, the other thing I would absolutely do And when you start seeing that they're not able to feed themselves, dress themselves, wash themselves, go to the bathroom themselves, walk by themselves, can even verbalize, the sooner you get hospice involved, the better. Because I didn't realize that with dementia, you can start them on hospice when they can't do at least 3 of the essential daily functions versus having to get a doctor's letter saying they only have 6 months to live. And hospice was an absolute godsend. It was amazing how quickly, when a nurse ordered a prescription, it was here. When they ordered a bed, the oxygen and everything, it was here. The nurse, in the middle of the night, I called 3 days before she passed. The nurse came out, evaluated her, and told me she's got days. Days to a week to go. So that gave me time to then we started getting a hold of family and actually called a lot of her friends and said, hey, Ray's been given 3 days. Do you want to say anything? And she got to, talk to. She didn't talk, of course, but she could hear what these people were saying.
Remind me, Bob, I feel like this was a recent conversation in one of our support rooms. Did you say you had called hospice and got that on your own without needing a referral from PCP, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And that was the first I had ever heard of somebody doing that, which I thought is just such a valuable piece of information, is you could literally call a hospice company and they can come out and do an evaluation.
Yeah, it was through Sharp, who was the hospital and medical facility that we use out here in San Diego. And fortunately, another Careblazer who's in my support group, Brenda had mentioned that she got hospice early on for her mother. And I thought, wow, really? And she told me what the basic requirements were. I called them, they interviewed me and saw her. They approved it. And so she actually started hospice February of last year.
Yep.
She's been on it for almost 9 months.
Okay. Do you remember much about the diagnosis process? Like, what were the first signs you noticed maybe something was going on? And then how did you ultimately come to the official diagnosis? What was that like?
Yeah. Okay. That's a great question because, again, knowing what I know today, it started before 4.5 years. But what it took for it to get to where there was finally an official diagnosis is we had some here in San Diego, because we're in fire country and I live on a hillside where there's a canyon and a fire went through here in 2003. You get a grant money if you trim your trees and put double pane windows and fire vents around your house. So we had the trees done and we had a group of guys that my wife hired, and they were sloppy when they were cutting branches and etc. Most of them put a big cloth around and put the branches there, then carry it out. Well, these guys were dragging stuff all over. Then within a week of that, all of a sudden, my wife started saying there were bugs in the house. She said, those guys drug all those branches all over the place. I know they cause all these bugs. I said, well, where are the bugs? And then she started showing me what ended up being little dust ball. She was hallucinating. So the paranoia, the delusions, the hallucinations started then, and it got worse to the point where I was taking her constantly to different doctors, to dermatologists, because she said the bugs were in her hair. She took every stitch of clothing out of her closet and washed it, and then cried because the bugs were still there, and had the inside of the house exterminated. 4 exterminators had to tell her, Ray, there's no bugs. We're not seeing any bugs, signs of bugs in your house. You got an immaculately clean house here. You don't have bugs. And she got mad at the doctors, the neurologist and primary care, the dermatologist that we went to. She would bring baggies that she would collect stuff thinking it was bugs. One day we were walking our dogs, and she said to me that I can't do this anymore. I want to kill myself. And I said, okay, we're going to go see the doctor. I said, I have an appointment in the morning. I said, I want you to get ready, and then we're going to go see the doctor and see what we have to do. Well, when I came home to take her to the doctor, she had locked the screen door, which we never locked. She had locked the door from the garage into the house. I jumped the fence and couldn't get in the backslider. She had everything locked. She just kept saying, go away, I'll get ready. Go away, I'll get ready. Well, there's no way I was going to go away because I didn't know what she was going to do. Then I called 911. I had the sheriff come out. They talked to her through the door. She finally opened the door. What was sad and I was mad about is they hooked her up, cuffed her, and took her in the back seat of the car and then put her in the hospital for 72-hour watch. And they told me they wouldn't do that. Because I knew that if somebody's suicidal and stuff, they're going to put them in. But, so that was very, very hard day. But it ended up being a good thing because had that not happened, I don't know when we would have got a proper diagnosis. Frustrating thing, though, is that the neurologist, I don't feel, did a comprehensive enough evaluation cognitive wise. It wasn't until after this event happened that they sent her to a neuropsychologist for a proper 3-hour testing, but she was put in a rehabilitation facility for a couple of weeks after she had said that she was going to kill herself. It was hell and high water here because it was during COVID and you couldn't get into the emergency rooms. I couldn't find out where she was until they finally put her into a room, and then I got in touch with her. And my wife is a organizer. She likes to do things. And the first couple of days she was in that behavioral unit, she would call me, and I would call her at least a couple times a day too to see how she was. And she would say, you got to get me out of here. I hate this place. You got to get me out of here. And I said, we will. I'm talking with the psychiatrist and he's going to give you some meds to help you and we're going to get you out of there. 3 days later, when I call, she says, hey, I said, so how's it going over there today? She says, oh, really good. I got a bunch of guys over here. We were in the back. We were playing volleyball. We were doing this. And she's a very social person. Her email name is Ramblin' Ray for a reason. So the psychiatrist at the behavioral unit told me that these hallucinations, delusions, paranoia are absolute signs of Alzheimer's. So he says, we got to get her properly tested. So then we got her tested. And sure enough, within a couple of days, I get a notice that she does have Alzheimer's and they're notifying the DMV to pull her driver's license.
Now, at the time the first signs started happening in terms of thinking things were bugs and, a little bit of that paranoia, did Alzheimer's or any dementia cross your mind at that point? What did you think was going on?
I truly didn't. Alzheimer's did not cross my mind. There was never any history of it in either of our families. She has a sister 88 years old and one 87 years old. There was no sign of Alzheimer's. I didn't truly clearly understand what the symptoms of Alzheimer's were until she was finally diagnosed. And then I started reading a bunch of books and everything else.
Yeah. So basically at the time of diagnosis, that's the first time you really heard about it. And so then that's the time you were starting to get the information. It's not like you came into this with a bunch of knowledge or even suspicion. Yeah, that's hard. That's super hard.
Nope. It's kind of, I just recently read Emma Willis's book, and like what she said in her book, she goes in and they get an evaluation and Bruce is told he's got frontotemporal dementia, given a little sheet about the disease and said, here you go, see you in 2 months. Well, that's kind of what happened here. And you go, what do you do? Where do you start? And you start reading about it. But again, with what I know today, I would have done things in the beginning much sooner and easier.
Let's talk about that.
I talk about pivoting. You got to pivot with this disease. So some people say, what do you mean pivot? Well, you can. The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over, thinking you're going to get different results. You're not. So I always was one to think, okay, she's having trouble getting into the car. So I figured, okay, let me get a ramp. I ordered a ramp online, was able to walk her up the ramp, turn, sit her down, and do that. But as time went on and various things that worked at one time, then as the disease progressed, didn't work anymore. So it's okay, time to pivot. got to find out what else I can do. Unfortunately, I didn't get involved with Careblazers until it hasn't even been a year. And if I had, I would have certainly learned a lot more back then. I just happened to go on YouTube and put questions in there about dementia, and you popped up with the Careblazers, and then you had your short things, and I'm going, oh, okay, that. And so, yeah, a lot of good information came out of all that. So that's the part people need to hear is get with a support group right away. There's so much online stuff. Get into your Careblazers group. You learn a ton from others.
Careblazer, real quick. So Bob is a member of our program that's called the Care Collective. It is a place where you can come day after day, week after week, and get real life practical support and guidance along your caregiving journey. So for whatever challenges or difficulties you're facing right now, as well as the ones that will be coming next, this program is here to guide you along the way. You can learn more about that program and join Careblazers just like Bob by going to careblazers.com and clicking on the For Families section. I've also put a link down below in the description. So, you get the diagnosis, you didn't know much about Alzheimer's disease prior to that, and you start looking for help. It sounds like you started looking up books to read. What are some of the other things you did? Like if somebody had just found out their loved one had a diagnosis, what would you say to them? How to go get help and where to begin?
Well, check in your community to see where there is a dementia support group, because right behind my office here in town, there's a community center. At the community center, they had a support group for dementia. And so I'd heard about it because I knew the person who ran the group, because she ran the Alzheimer's home here in Alpine before she sold it and moved to Tennessee. So then after she moved and went to Tennessee, there was no more support group. And then after I retired, I got the support group back up. So going in and telling what was going on, because when you first walk in, kind of like what you did, there's an introduction, who you're caring for and what's going on. And you start talking about it. And, she was running a facility, and there was several other people in the group who had spouses that had passed, but were still coming to the group. And then some that were in the same position I was. So, lots of key things that I was able to take away and go do some research, books they recommended, etc.
Yeah.
But again, knowledge is powerful. You can't know enough to help you through this.
What would you say is one of the most important skills for a caregiver to have?
You got to have the patience, but you got to have some physical skills, because you're going to have to be picking them up and finding the tools to help you, the lift belts that are available and tools that can help you mobilize them. I got a transporter header that I had to use in the house as well eventually. So you just got to have the will to learn and do what it takes.
As we wrap up here, any last words of either encouragement or wisdom or advice that you'd give anybody who stumbles across this video?
Yeah, don't wait. Don't wait. Don't think that whatever your person is going through is going to go away. It's not. It is definitely 100% going to get worse and take their life.
That reminds me of something. A lot of times I hear, I talk to caregivers everywhere, all over the world. Sometimes they'll say things when it comes to like preparing yourself or getting the information or joining a support group or anything like that. They'll sometimes say, it's not that bad yet. What would you say to those individuals?
You're 100% right. Not yet, but yet is going to change. It's going to change, and you just don't know when it's going to. And if you don't learn and prepare, it's going to be too late. You're going to struggle. You're going to struggle more when you wait than if you get in front of it and know, okay, she's at stage 4. Here's what's going to happen in stage 5. What do I need to do to take care of her in stage 5? Oh, she's down to stage 6. Oh, what am I going to do in stage 6? Do I need to get hospice? Do I need to get a bed in here? Do I need to get equipment for the toilet where she can sit on the toilet properly? You got to be ready for it.
It sounds like for you, it really helped you prepare for the future and know what to expect. For some people, they get really scared when they hear about what's to come. And it almost makes them want to not get any information.
Yeah, and that in itself is scary. I know I have a friend, her husband just passed 2 weeks before my wife. We went to dinner every weekend. He passed of Parkinson's dementia. So she was in denial and she didn't want to believe that he was in a state where he didn't eventually know her, was not able to walk eventually. And she was not prepared. She didn't prepare because she was in denial, even though we went to dinner and I would tell her, Annette, you need to read this book. You need to do this. You need to do that. And she would nod her head and then not do it. I even set up hospice. I said, here's a number. I'm going to sit here with you and we're going to call hospice and get something started because he's going to get hurt because he was a wanderer. He would go out. He fell in a pool because they didn't have a gate up. He'd walk out the door and fall on the sidewalk because she didn't have alarms on the door. And so those things can not only hurt your loved one, your patient, but it could hurt you because you're not prepared for it. If they take a fall, you could be going down with them. You can get yourself hurt to where you're not able to take care of them.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story, especially so soon after your wife has passed away. Because you're somebody who runs a support group, has read a lot of books, has done a lot of preparation, can you share like what did the Care Collective add for you or do for you for somebody who was already doing so much of the preparation and receiving support?
Nothing's better than reinforcement. Nothing's better than hearing you're doing the right thing. I don't think you're ever doing the wrong thing. I mean, it did frustrate me when my friend would yell at her husband and say, quit telling them, you've told them that story 100 times. And one of the things that I learned through all this and the stories and all that is that it's not them. It's not them. It's the disease. It's the dementia that's doing this. They're not doing this intentionally. One of the best things I heard from you was changing your mindset. That 1 week program you had, and I went through that, and they get your mindset. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to be mean to you. They're not saying these ugly things because they don't like you. It's the disease. So one of the best books anybody can read that's listening to this is go get yourself a copy of Oh, Hello, Alzheimer's. And Lisa, the author, the husband of Steve, who died at 3 years after he was diagnosed, she had her frustrations and went to neurologist after neurologist to finally get a proper diagnosis. And she would be frustrating in the meantime. And then she stopped and said, wait a minute, it's not him. It's not Stephen. It's Alzheimer's. So she named Alzheimer's the bitch. So anytime that Stephen did something that frustrated her, she goes, there she is again. The bitch is back. So yeah, once you understand that your loved one isn't doing that stuff intentionally to hurt you, and that helps relieve you of your frustration and know that they're not doing this intentionally. They don't want what they've got. They don't want to have this ugly disease that is going to take you bit by bit by bit until you pass. They didn't ask for this.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's a beautiful perspective.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story. Thank you for taking the time to do so. Thank you for caring for your wife. Thank you for being a part of our community. We've certainly enjoyed having you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your community, because I talk about you all the time. I tell people, if you don't want to go to a local support group in your town or anything, at least get on Careblazers. Go on there, go to YouTube, get on. And if you could ever join.
I love that. I love that. All right, Bob, thank you so much. And for everybody watching, and for you too, Bob, I apologize. This time of day, the cats just are like, yeah, they're like, we are going to be a part of this video no matter what. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time and all your knowledge that you've shared to help me get through this.
All right, Bob, we'll see you in an upcoming support room.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for being here.
Also, Nico gets a belly rub for every person who subscribes from this video. So if you haven't already, click the red subscribe button. It's totally free. And Nico says, thank you very much.